The poisonous mushroom is, to me, one of the most disturbing pieces of Nazi propaganda because it's aimed at children. It's a children's book, which was published in 1938 by the Stürmer publishing house, which was run by a Nazi named Julius Streicher. This children's book, which really is, you can see, geared to very young children. Der Stürmer would publish a photograph, for instance, where you can see young kids holding and reading a copy. It was a collection of short stories that were supposed to essentially be like lessons in how to be an anti-Semite, how to hate Jews. All of the different stories would sort of cover different aspects of why the Nazis and Julius Streicher claimed that Jews were supposedly so bad, and it touched on really the major themes of anti-Semitism. You can see religious themes, things claiming Jews are the devil, for instance. You can see racial things, claiming that Jews are a different race. For instance, there's one cartoon in there where a schoolboy is being taught how to draw a picture of a supposedly Jewish nose and told it looks like a 6. Julius Streicher really firmly believed, the Nazis believed, right, that you could identify Jewish people by racial characteristics, something that we know, of course, is false. There's also economic anti-Semitism, claims that Jewish people have too much money, have too much control over money. Like this image you could see of stereotyped, disfigured, essentially Jewish man sitting on a bag of money, coins. This is a really common anti-Semitic trope that you really see sort of all over Europe, but in very crude form in this children's book. I'm not actually sure how popular it was. I'm sure that the Nazis wanted us to think it was popular, that they posted photographs of kids reading this book, and that, you know, you hear stories from people who survived this time period talking about it. I think it stood out because it was really very crude. These ideas, these anti-Semitic claims are very commonplace. You could see them in a lot of Nazi propaganda, but this is really directed at young kids, like kids who are learning to read or who aren't great readers necessarily. And I think, to me, it comes also to the story that gives the book its name, The Poisonous Mushroom, or Der Giftpilz. The premise of this story almost feels like you're like hearing about the Holocaust, about what the Nazis end up doing. So basically the idea was that when you're mushroom hunting, when you're picking mushrooms, you have to be very careful because some mushrooms are deadly. And they might look like mushrooms that aren't deadly. And one deadly mushroom, right, can ruin everything, and you have to get rid of it. And the picture of the poisonous mushroom that they have in this book has a Star of David, which the Nazis use as a symbol for Jewish people, and disfigured stereotypical features of a Jewish man on it. So Julius Streicher didn't draw it or write it, but it was created by people who worked with and for him and for this magazine, Der Stürmer, which was a tabloid. It was explicit and sometimes borderline pornographic. And it's this same publishing house that decides that they are going to make a children's book because they want to make sure that their content is not just reaching adult Germans, but also the next generation that's going to reach kids. And they even use the same cartoonist. Phipps draws these pretty crude, graphic, adult, very much adult cartoons for the magazine, and he also illustrates this children's book. Philip Ruprecht, called Phipps, he is arrested after the war for his work drawing these cartoons, and he is tried and even convicted, but he doesn't serve his full sentence. He's ultimately released, goes on to live his life as a painter and decorator, and dies in the 1970s.